All right, so that started up the part 2. We're almost done with our map controller. We're almost ready to move on to part 2 here, the second view controller. I do want to continue to add my documentation. So I looked at at the syllabus, and we're actually doing quite well. Covered a good chunk of what we're going to cover. So the last class probably will just be an open lab for everyone to come in and work on stuff, ask questions, whatever, because I think we'll be able to do that. And then also, if you guys are interested, like the last class I was going to cover implementing Swift into an Objective-C application. But then also we could, if you want, I could give you a run-through of what it takes to actually publish an app to the store, if you're interested. Okay. All right. I can do that. All right, so let's see, where were we? One other thing I think I would like to do with this before we move on to the second view controller, which we haven't created yet. Well, first of all, let's, so that we can do that easily and affordably. Okay. Let's go ahead and take our main view controller, the map view, and embed it in a navigation controller. So you go to Editor, Embed in a Navigation Controller, and that does that for us. And it makes it huge, gigantor, so I'm going to size them down so it looks normal. All right. So now we have a navigation controller and our map view controller that allow us to navigate easily. So that basically, there's always a navigation controller that exists in a UI view controller. It's just not always set to something. So by embedding the view controller in a navigation controller, that property actually has a valid object in it now. All right, so back in here, and we're getting some spinning wheels of torture here. But it's something that it just straight up doesn't like. Okay. Now what we'll do is, I mentioned this briefly last week. We sped up the rendering of this map, so it's just zip bang fast. But in the case of a slower network connection, what we probably want to do is create a little overlay that allows the user to not sit there and see nothing for a while. Let's think how I want to do this. There's several ways we can go about doing it. Yes, I think what we'll do, the slowest part of this is going to be when it's getting the list of stores. So when we post a notification that the stores are loaded, I think at that point we can, all right, yeah, that's what we'll do. Okay, so we need to create up here in our variable section, we need to create a UI view weight. And we'll create the weight screen. This is going to be a weight screen that basically just gives the user the idea that they're waiting on something. I haven't covered activity indicators yet, so this will give us a chance to cover activity indicators, which are very handy little devices that you can use in all your apps. Gives the user some feedback when there's something going on and they have nothing to do. All right, so we'll call the, well, first we'll create, this creates a wait screen. This is going to be just a standard UI view. And it's going to cover our entire viewable area. So we use our self.view.frame. You can also use UI screen.main screen dot bounds. Let's see how we want to do this. So let's do this. Let's go out. I'm doing an image search. I'm looking for the background to the, okay, you can kind of see it on like the pin pad. This isn't bad here. It's kind of funky. It's Apple that's making you wait. Let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking of the guy that goes behind the pin pad controller. Oh well, let's see. Yeah, this will probably work just fine. I'm going to use this as the background image for our load screen, but we're gonna dim this guy out a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, copy the image. I'm going to preview. File, new from clipboard. Shows it way over on the left-hand side. Let's see how big this is. 640 by 960, that covers most phones. That should work just fine. I'm going to save him off. Actually, I'm going to call it load screen.
So what was the dimension?
It was at 640 by 960, which cover pretty much.
Did you change it?
1096, I think, is the largest. Pardon? I didn't change it to anything. I just left it. 640 by 960 is what it was already at. It's probably already being used for this kind of purpose. All right, so load screen. I'm going to drag them and drop them in here. Okay, so we have, I'm going to function up as our wait screen or load screen. Because I'm lazy, I'm going to say let BI equals, this is our background image, that's what BI stands for. Image view. And again, I'm going to set self.view.frame. And then I can say bi.image equals UI image named load screen. And then what we're going to do is I'll set the alpha on this to be something less than 1. We'll say like 50%. So you can kind of see there's something going on back there, but you can't quite tell what it is. Then we can say self.view.add subview. So that's half of what we're going to do. This creates the the view. Then I also mentioned the activity indicator. So the activity indicator is like a built-in iOS feature, object, class, all the above, that allows you to indicate activity to. I'm getting messages like crazy here. Allows you to indicate to the user that something's going on, that there's activity, but you just don't know what it is yet. All right, so we can say equals, this is a UI activity indicator view. Yeah, so I'm going to use, I'll just use a, start off with a rectangle. We're not quite ready for that just yet. We need to create the rectangle. We can do it dynamically inside the parameter list there, but it just gets ugly. So I'm going to say let r equals cg. I'm just using abbreviated variable names all over the place here. Voca would kill me. X will be self.view.frame.midx. So that puts it right in the middle of our frame, -10. And then the y will be self.view.frame.mid-y -10. Width is 20, height is 20. Now we are ready to create our activity indicator with that. I don't think Voker ever watches any of my videos, but it'd be pretty funny if he did. I'm talking about it. So you can customize the color of these. AI.color. I'm going to say red, because we know there's something very, very imminent happening here. Then I'm going to set the background, because you can set the background as well. I'm going to set that to be clear. And then once you've got the frame set, you've got the color set, basically at that point, you just have to call AI.startAnimating. One more thing we need to do before everything will work is we have to, even though we've done all this, it's a regular view, essentially, this activity indicator is, so we still have to add it to its parent view, which is the weight view. And then we need to add the weight view to us. In that order. And then everything should be totally copacetic. So I'll give that a minute or two. You guys can.
Do we have to take out the line where we added it before?
Which one is that, Karen?
8 lines up. We added EW weight.
Oh, yeah, right. Thank you. Very good catch. we're going to really make sure it's on there. All right, so that here I'll go up and down really fast. Get anyone sick here. There it is. So what we'll do is we will create this guy. In our view will appear. There it is. That's where we'll create the wait screen, and then because it is a global variable, when we're done loading our stores up, stores loaded is the name of our method. Down here, when we're all done with our loop, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it here, I think. Self.viewWait.remove from superview. Okay, so let's see what happens when we run this. Absolutely nothing. Okay. Not as anticipated. Well, I guess the easiest way to see what's going wrong is to debug it, so I'll see if it gets in here. Yeah, it looks like it is. So one possible reason is that something is not valid here. Load screen. Oh, wait, you know what? So I'm surprised. Okay, that's why. All right, I think I see maybe what's going on. I never added the image view to I never added the image view to the wait screen, the UI view. And let's see. And I think we can have the activity indicator right on top of that, but we'll see. All right. So set the activity indicator background to be clear. Yeah, we'll see what happens. So it's getting into the code. It's the only reason I can think of where it's not showing. Yeah, it's there very briefly. But our map. What's that?
To the pins pop up.
Yeah, to the pins pop up. It's just that our map loads so fast now that it's just barely there for a little while. I thought there was a way of simulating a slow network through the simulator, but I'm not seeing it. I looked and couldn't find it. So what we can do is slow it down by calling our UAT version of our endpoints rather than our production version, and that will slow it down for sure. Yeah, so you can see the activity indicator spinning away there. Wow, it's a lot slower. All right, so that's how that works. So if you have a slow network, obviously if you have a fast network, you don't even really hardly see it. If you have a slow network, you know, then you got some sort of visual indicator for the users that things are slow. And just hold on, it'll come, kind of thing. All right, so that's that. Now the next thing we want to do is create a view controller that when we tap on our disclosure indicator, takes us to a list of directions. So we're going to need to add a file to our project. And this will be iOS source, Cocoa Touch. And this will be our directions. So I don't fill in the view controller. I just call it directions because when you change the subclass of to UI view controller, then it tacks that on there for you. So if you type it out yourself, you end up with directions view controller view controller. And we're also going to create a zip file for it. And that's good. Okay. So again, the ubiquitous UI table view, always there. So we're going to make our class a UI table view delegate and a UI table view data source. Table view. And of course, we get the error when we do that. We're going to want to go into our zip file that it created. And I'm going to size them down so it's manageable. All right, and so we're going to want to plop a UI table view object on here. Keeping in mind we have a navigation control up there. We don't want it to go too far up. All right. And with that guy, okay, what are we balking about here? Oh yeah, right. Haven't implemented the methods yet, so we'll get around to that. All right, so in here, let's see if this is going to muck up our assistant editor because we got an error in our file. Yeah, gave me the wrong one. Take two. Weird. Okay, you didn't like that one, I'll give you this one. All right, so here it is. This is our directions view controller. I'm going to create an outlet for our table view. Okay, I can drop it over there. All right, there's our table view object. Yeah, we'll get around to implementing methods. So then in here, we'll want to do our usual centering routine. So it's centered in the view. And then we can also kind of set it height-wise so it avoids the navigation bar. Top space to container, and we can set that guy to be, I don't know, like about probably 45 is good. And then get the width set. Trailing space, we'll set that at 10. Okay, because of the fact it's centered, just by setting the trailing space, by virtue of that, it should automatically set the leading space. All right, so that sets up our second view controller, we need to go ahead and define the, we did it in the code, but we also need to set the delegate and data source in our storyboard or in our zip file. So if I select the table view, over here is the data source and the delegate. Because this is not in a storyboard scene, our top level object over here is a view. So what we have to do is drag and drop this on our files owner. Files owner is by default the UI view controller that we created. And then again with the view selected now this time, I'm going to come over here to our identity inspector, and I'm going to go up to the files owner for that, and it's already got that set correctly to the directions view controller. So that creates that link between this zib and the view class and the UI view controller, because we just created this guy on the side using a zib, and so that makes sure that it's correctly wired up. Okay, good. All right, so we have our second view controller. Now we need to implement some methods. I think in our second view controller we can go ahead and pass along, from our first view controller we can pass along our route object, and then that's probably all we really need to be able to map out the route, or not map out, but give the directions. So in our second view controller, up here in addition to our table view, we can create another variable which is going to be our route. And we have a problem with that because we haven't import the MapKit. Okay, so now we need to implement the methods so it doesn't complain at us anymore. Number of sections in table view, 1. And then we need the table view number of rows and section. All right. Did I just miss it or what? Number. There it is. I don't know how I missed it. Number of rows and section. So in our route object, up here, this guy, we can return, say, current route dot steps. That's the actual steps of the directions. Dot count. And then the last thing we need to implement is just the self-road index path. I'm just having a terrible time finding this stuff. Okay, view. Why am I not finding this? Wow. I think it's just making them up as it goes along. All right, there it is. For this, for right now, we can just return a dummy table view cell. Just to make the compiler happy. Oh, forgot the return statement. Still forgot it there. Alright, put all the punctuation you want in there. There we go. Number of rows and section is the current route.steps. So the steps actually have properties in them, like description and stuff like that. All right, so that gives us a skeleton to work with in our second view controller. Everyone good so far? All right, so we're all wired up here almost. The next thing we need to do is back in our main view controller. So this again will happen. We're gonna, if you tap on a map pen, it's gonna give us the polyline and all that good stuff. If you tap on the information indicator here, that's when we're gonna go into second view controller. All right. So in here, we need to implement map view. Something about tapping the call out. Did select annotation. Nope. Did select. What was the overlay? Renders. Call out. I think this is our guy. Annotation view, annotation view, call out, accessory tapped, I think is what it is. Yep, there it is. Call out accessory control tapped is the method. Now, so this is going to take our current route, our first current route from our list up here. So we have current route here. It's going to take the top element of that. Actually, I have quite a bit of stuff in here. All right. It's going to take that and pass that along to the second view controller. We can create our second view controller. Let's directions controller, DC equals directions view controller. And we're going to load this with a nib. Name of our nib is directions view controller. Oddly enough, the bundle does not have to be defined. Could be no. And we've already defined that variable over there. Current route is equal to our current route 0. So we should probably have a check in here just to make sure, because they could go ahead. They could go ahead and tap on a call out before they've actually gotten directions. So can check in here if self dot current is not equal to nil. Then we do all this stuff. Now, because we have a navigation controller, we can say self, well, I don't want to do that. I want to go here and do that. Self.navigation controller .push view controller. And view controller pushing is the directions controller animated. All right, we're getting pretty close now. The last thing we need to do is in our second view controller, we didn't wire up a self-road index path. We just kind of created a dummy cell. Going to need to do a couple of things in there. So going back in our directions view controller and our view did load, we're going to have our table view register class. UI table view cell.self is the class. For reuse identifier is cell. So we always need to do that if we're going to DQ a reusable cell, which is kind of like standard practice. That registers the table view cell. And then finally, in our self-road index path, we can dequeue that cell. DQ, that's table view, not us. Usable cell identifier, cell. Now, as I mentioned, the route object that we have, our MK route, which comes back from our list of MK routes, that guy has a list of step in it. So we can call that out using self.currentRoute dot steps using index path dot row. That will give us the current step, and that's what we're gonna take the instructions in that step and plop them on our table view cell. So we need to set that up. Cell.textLabel. And by the way, some of you in the table view assignment that we did were getting frustrated because, and I found this out after the fact, you created a custom zip file for the one with the schools. Created a custom zip file with an image view and a label in it. And you were setting the text of the text label instead of the custom label that you created, and so it never appeared right. So for those of you that did that, I sent an email back explaining it, I think. Either that or in the grade. I think I sent an email back explaining what was wrong. But that can cause huge headaches, as you found out, if you use the default text label, because all the UI table view cells come with this guy already embedded in it, the text label. But when you create a custom zib for a UI table view cell, if you create a different variable name, which you kind of have to, you can't use the one that's already there. So like if you call it school label, you're setting the text label's font and the text label's text, and it was blotting out the image, and the image was overriding it, and it was just some nastiness, so that's the reason why. So anyway, the text label.text is, we'll go, I'm going to create a number, so these steps are numbered. Path dot row plus 1, so they're not starting at 0. And then another object embedded in here, step dot, I think it's instructions, but it's because I got it. All right. There we go. So I'll comment this now. All right, so what we're doing is we're taking the number of the step and then the actual instructions associated with it. I'm going to put a space in, oops, not there, put a space in here. Now, I am particular certain fonts. I'm just going to go out to the iOS font side so we can make this pretty. Feel free to use whatever font you want. These guys are all natively supported. I like Trebuchet because it just feels kind of good mixing in a Microsoft font. In an iOS app. Okay, so dot text label dot font. Name is the one I just copied. Size, I'll make 15. See how that looks. Also, we want this guy to wrap, as in wrap lines. So we're going to say number of lines equals 0. And we'll return him. The other thing I want to do is set the height of it, since some of these instructions might be lengthy. I'm going to set the height for row. Go around the horn here a few times with this too. Height for row. We'll say, just to be safe, maybe like 80. All right. I think we have everything. See what happens. Need a drum roll. So we'll get directions down to here, and then hit that, and boom, that's what happens. All right, something terribly wrong. And get all this wonderful looking stuff. Could not load the nib and bundle. Name directions view controller. That's what happens when you type it in manually. So I must have misnamed my zib. Has anyone got theirs working?
Constraints.
Pardon?
Why did you click on that?
Oh my gosh, I really butchered up my name. All right.
Pass a class and
Did you set the height for the header footer instead of the row height?
maybe.
Where's my mouse? There it is. Oh, that's just ugly. It doesn't look like trebuchet. But there they are. So you can see the directions. I have the optional in front of them because they're wrapped objects. So we want to get rid of those. But looks like they came across okay. Got to fix that. All right. So, and our second view controller. This guy is optional. So text equals, one of these guys needs to be, let me go back here. I think I can still, no. I'm going to go ahead and rerun this. Okay, so it looks like it's the second part of my statement that is getting the optional thing. The number looks okay. So let's see, instructions. Try running again. Okay, so that got rid of the optional part. And you could dress up the table view to have like alternating row colors and stuff too, if you wanted. As far as the weight screen, I gotta fix that. All right. But otherwise, it's good to go. See, I put that new view up here. This is an interesting dilemma I have here. Because I put this in the view, maybe what I should do, actually this doesn't really belong here. I think this belongs in the view to load. We're only going to have it load the directions the first time it comes in.
Oh, no, that was just a check.
So if I didn't put it in here, the way I'd get around this problem would be to create a timer. And if the thing is still up and running when the timer hits, then it would just remove it. All right, so that solved that problem. Okay, so like I said, I think I will, in fact I'm pretty confident I will create an assignment after tonight. This will probably be a fairly weighty one because you guys are going to create your own app from scratch. I'm going to leave it wide open, so like you can create a list of whatever you want, whatever you're into, whatever you want to put on a map. You can create so what I would recommend doing is creating like a name, maybe an address or a subtitle of some kind in a plist. So you can do, when you create the plist, you just go new file, and this is going to be a resource. It's a property list file. And I can call this restaurant list. Okay, that creates this. Then you can create a new item. You just click on the plus up here. And let's see, so this could be an array. This is an example. This will be, you want to change the type to a array. And then you click on the little drop down arrow and do an add. And then this guy would be a dictionary. And then you do like another add. And the dictionary elements, let's say we call it a restaurant name. Oops. And so for example, we could have like Politos, something like this. And just because I'm doing one with restaurants doesn't mean you can't. So then that's the first item, and then we can add another dictionary element. Call it location. Oops. And then you just give it an address. I don't know what they're 1200 Main Street, something like that. Okay. And then when you're ready to create another one, you can select this. You can go copy and then just paste it down below it. That'll create a new item, and then you can just modify the attributes of the dictionary element. So I would use this format probably, where you have an array of dictionaries, and then that lends itself really easily to pulling that out of. You can look at the code that we did for like the presidents project that we did. We loaded the list of presidents, and the code to do this will be almost identical to pull the elements out of the P list. And then these guys will be what you would use then. You'd have like an array of dictionary elements that you would use to populate your annotations on your map. So this is a little bit weightier. So you'll have till the end of the semester to do this. We'll have one other small assignment, but this guy you can work on till the end of the semester and have a little more point value. I'm not sure exactly what, but at least 75. So yeah. So any questions, comments, concerns, jokes, anything at all before we wrap this up? Huh? All right, so okay, that's it then. I'm gonna quit the recording.